Hi, everyone. I'm Raymond Benson. Welcome to Hooked on Leiter, an episode by episode unpacking of The Hook in the Eye, my Felix Leiter novel. The folks at Ian Fleming Publications and I had this idea to do behind the scenes videos for each episode, much the same way that streaming television series do after an episode drops. Now, you'll probably all know by now that these were conceived to be supplements to the serialized ebook episodes. But due to some technical difficulties that none of us expected, those ebook file updates just didn't work the way we were led to believe they would. The entire novel was thus released on June 24th. Nevertheless, we decided to go ahead and post these Hooked on Lighter episodes at 2 week intervals over the summer as originally planned. Please note that almost all of them were already recorded before we made the decision to release the entire ebook. So these videos are still very episode centric. We hope you'll receive them now within the context in which they were intended. Again, a warning. If you haven't read the chapters discussed in these videos, there could be some spoilers. Hello again. It's episode 5. The road trip is continuing, and things are now a little awkward between Felix and Dora, aren't they? Poor Felix doesn't know what to think. I do believe it was realistic that Felix would be struggling with his self-confidence regarding women due to his disability. He's obviously also falling for Dora, and she isn't reciprocating in quite the way he'd like or expects. So there's some hot and cold tension going on. But there is that second night together, so something is happening between the two of them. Anyway, the couple finally enter Texas and they reach Dallas. I chose Dallas to be Felix's hometown only because it was a metropolitan center that I knew well enough, but I also figured that Felix had to have a major urban background, not a small town or rural upbringing. Fleming made him a very sophisticated guy for a Texan, so he likely had come from Dallas or Houston or maybe even Austin, but even Austin would have been pretty small in the early 50s. So Dallas made sense. Um, they're obviously in a different world now compared to New York City, and it is. I moved from Texas to New York in my early 20s, and the culture shock was huge. I tried to convey this change with some of the supporting characters like George and Billy at the Alamo Plaza Hotel, which really was a kitschy place that existed, and it was designed to look just like the Alamo in San Antonio. While Felix and Dora are killing a day while that Packard is being repaired, I took them on a journey to the past. All the stuff with Felix's parents and where they used to live is my invention. I mean, it was a real location in Dallas. Um, what happened with Felix's father is actually based on something that occurred in a corner of my own family history. No, it's not my father who lived to be 94 years old. It's not him. It was someone else, and I'll just leave it at that. I just thought this background would give Felix an extra layer of depth. Perhaps this is why he tries so hard to be upbeat all the time when he's not alone. We finally come to one of my favorite set pieces in the novel. Um, I'll save my discussion about the cockfight for next time, since the chapter uh, and episode ends before that starts. For now, I just wanted to talk about the location of that event, which I describe as a carnival sideshow. When I was growing up in West Texas, these kinds of pop-up carnivals would appear occasionally. There were always rides and food vendors, and when I was really young, in the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, there were still sideshow acts with what we referred to back then as freaks. Yes, in the southern United States, in Texas, that was still a thing as late as the 1960s. So it wasn't too much of a leap that a cockfight would be at one of those things. I mean, I'd never seen a cockfight, but I knew they existed. I knew that they occurred, as well as dog fights. So, this was a little slice of darkness in that part of the country that existed, and maybe still does. This sequence and what follows in the next episode was, I guess, my attempt to bring a little Fleming-esque surrealism into the story. Fleming was fascinated by the bizarre and the slightly grotesque and sleazy. Just witness the way he describes the stripper sequences in both Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun, and Darko Karam's circus background in From Russia with Love. So get ready for a little bit of that next time. So this is Raymond Benson signing off. See you in 2 weeks.